Today I want to talk about how to worship with your meals. We live in a fast-paced society, don't we? Where what's valued is production, productivity, how fast you can move, how quickly you can get things done, and what's championed is how many hours a week you can work. And those could all be good things, but some of the things that we're called to do actually get lost in translation. See, we're creatures of worship. We were created to worship and worship God hard. And that includes everything we do with our work, but it also includes with our food. You see, what happens to our food in this fast-paced society is that instead of having a good breakfast sitting down with your family, we will slug down a frappuccino at Starbucks, or we'll swing by a Dunkin' Donuts and get a donut and a small coffee for breakfast, or at lunch we'll eat at our desks while we're working, and at dinner we're so tired we just plop down in front of the television and we eat takeout in front of the TV at nights. So we have to be very careful about worshiping God in those moments. In fact, we're missing out a great deal. So I want to give you 4 ways you can begin to learn how to worship God with your food better. Number 1, build a connection to where your food comes from. This is important. So what I do as a family is we actually go to the farm, and I bring my kids along, and they get to see the cows and the pigs and the chickens, where their food actually comes from. You see, in the grocery store today, we'll walk into, let's say, a Safeway or a grocery store like that, and we'll go in, and everything, it looks very disconnected from what it actually originally looked like. So if you walk into the middle of the grocery store, you'll see boxed foods, and those boxed foods are usually made from grain and corn. And we don't see any ears of corn, and we don't see any stalks of grain. What we see is a big brightly colored box with orange and blue and green loops on it, and a giant bird, which the bird has nothing to do with the corn or the grain that it came from, except that maybe it was trying to eat it while it was growing. That's about it. But we've lost that connection. So I would encourage you to build that connection. Shop from farms. It's cheaper, and you'll support local businesses, and you'll get to see and show your family exactly where your food's coming from and why you're even eating it in the first place. Number 2, cook. Cook your meals. So don't pour a bowl of cereal. Fry up some eggs instead and some delicious natural bacon. Do that. Cook your oatmeal. Pour your own, squeeze your own juice if that's your thing. Blend your green smoothie. However you eat, begin the process of learning how to cook and work with your food. Instead of going for the instant packs of oatmeal or the Pop-Tarts or the Frappuccino, make your own food and begin to build that connection with it. 1, it's going to taste a lot better. 2, it's going to be way more nutritious. And 3, you're going to begin to see the way God actually created your food to be made, and you're going to begin to be able to worship Him in those moments. So I would encourage you to learn to cook, even though you may not want to. And if you already do cook and you kind of cook unhealthily, begin to cook more healthy. Number 3, savor the flavor. Now, I'm not talking about lifesavers like that old commercial in the 90s, but what I'm saying is when we eat our food, we should smell the aromas that come off of it. If you read the Old Testament and you see the way our burnt offerings were offered to God, you know that God always said this one phrase, and that aroma was pleasing to the Lord. You see, God actually does enjoy the smell of His cooked food, and that includes meats and vegetables and fruits and drinks. And so we should absolutely savor the taste and the smell and enjoy the senses that God's given us to enjoy the delicious meal and food that He's given. Number 4, never eat alone. We want to build this process into our lives where we're constantly eating with other people. So if you have breakfast alone, decide to have it with your wife or your husband or your kids in the morning, or your roommate if that's your situation. When you have lunch, enjoy it with a coworker, or go out to a sandwich shop with a friend and enjoy the food that God has given you. You see, we were created to be beings of worship, but we're also created to be beings of community. And here you can knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. You can enjoy people, and you can enjoy food. And for some reason, God has built this connection into us. You see it all throughout Scripture. God enjoys meals with His disciples. In the book of Acts, the disciples, the apostles at that time, went out into the communities and built communities in their homes and enjoyed meals. And so build a process in your life of always enjoying food with the people around you instead of being alone, being isolated, working, or even watching television. Try to build that rhythm into your life. Hey, I hope these tips were helpful for you. Try to answer the questions below to help you work through this a little bit more, and feel free to check out the website. We've got all sorts of videos on here for you to help you grow and help you learn in your process.